but it looks scratched into me on that one there for sure. If I can hold it steady here, hang on, let me set it down. There we go. So I mean, it's interesting, let alone on the inside of it here. It doesn't seem symmetrical in terms of a normal bit. Like you can see on the handbag there, the left-hand side is a very thin, narrow carving line, whereas the right-hand side is much thicker. There's no depth consistency when we've measured it with the SEM testing. There's depths all over the map, um, as well as the symmetry in the sidewalls. There's no consistent diagonal or any sort of edging that you would expect with a Dremel or something like that. I don't know.
That's
It's really hard to
that's
say what.
wild.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
We are definitely going to have to do a follow-up on what the composition results come back as
De-
on those.
Definitely. I'll be posting a video on Wednesday on TikTok and Instagram. But we can definitely go over Wednesday night or something like that if you want to plan for it.
Absolutely. I will set it up after this tonight so we can. That's something I'm working on now in the new year that I failed the last 3 weeks, but still half a week left in January. So for all the shows of the first week of February, they're going to be posted in the next couple of days here. I was actually talking with Shem before we went live. We're going to be doing one on the World's Fair next week, along with Lucas Aurelius and Lucius Aurelius channel and Old World History, I believe. But yeah, also next Wednesday back with Mike, and when you said Wednesday, so WooWoo
Wednesday, yeah.
Wednesday it is.
We got to change that to wow.
Wow Wednesday, right? Oh wow. And look at the style that almost looks like a Nubian elongated head.
It's wild. Definitely Egyptian shaping.
For sure. And Nubian being the upper Egyptian. Oh, we got Shem back. Welcome, Shem. Good sir.
Right here. What's up?
Looks like we're going into this is always my favorite part.
Mike, are there any carvings or hieroglyphics on any of those artifacts that relate to Dionysus or Osiris?
Oh, yeah.
Can
Yeah,
you
I've
show
got
us
a
some?
sarcophagus with Osiris on it. A lot of Osiris and Horus and showing the resurrection and Isis and a lot of Isis showing the pre-Adamic birthing and scenes. Here, I'll show you of the Adamu. It says in the cuneiform writings that it took 700 years and whatnot to perfect the Adamu species, which was Adam's prerequisite. And you can see here, there's no humans being depicted on these pieces, but Isis looks consistent with her Egyptian depictions, but she's obviously nursing an Adamu here, which is the predecessor to Adam, the slave species in Eden that was utilized, in many different experiments prior to the flood.
Are
But
there
she's
any
really,
segment, like lion-headed goddesses?
yes.
Oh,
I've
I
seen
don't
a
have it
couple.
down here, but I have a pyramid that has Sekhmet on the one side
what?
of it. Hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah, Sekhmet, Sobek.
I think on one of the sides of the big table or one of the big or the round table carvings, I've seen one as well.
Not with Sobek. It's got Ra and I don't know any of the names of these guys. Probably the fallen angels, though, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'd say you got that right. Those definitely look like fallen angels.
Yeah. What I find is interesting too is I'm gonna show this. Like you see these where they would have beards almost. If you look at the styling here of specifically
It's
the
like
guy on the right,
Sumerian, Babylonian, Assyrian
well, the
style of
Egyptians, even
yeah.
on King Tut's death mask, you'll find um, this beard. And what I found out was that they would, because I mean King Tut was
Oh,
14
there's a
years old, so
crocodile humanoid god
w-
figure. What's the crocodile one called
that's
in
Sobek.
Sobek?
Yeah.
You got
Yeah. So
Sobek, Roth,
so
Ra.
they would tape or pin on beards to mimic their gods, and the pharaohs were the living gods, and so they put those beards on because that's what their god, these angels are the creators, like that, or of the of what they
That
believed in, I
piece
guess.
right there on just above you. Do you mind that? Yes, this one. If we can focus in on this, is fascinating because that essentially is like
It's
a
got the eight
Mayan
planets.
Aztec style, but yeah, the 8 planets, and if it can
I'm gonna pull it down here, hang on one second.
probably be correlated to, looks more like the um, Sumerian style or Egyptian style of the depiction of them. Anubis. What?
A lot going on.
That is wild. And the feathered, like, dog or bear guy neck, like, what's that one? That's
Here?
right above him. That's Thoth, right? So the one above this
Oh, the
one,
feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl.
that's Quetzalcoatl. That's serpent.
You know, Quetzalcoatl had a twin brother.
Yep, Kukulkan.
Mm.
And that's Anki and Enlil, That's why you have Dugu and Dagon as well. They're all the same. When they were in the sea, it was Dugu and Dagon. Then when these beings, like how they say that Anki's son is Thoth, and how these angelic beings didn't have biological reproductive systems. Like they didn't have sons and daughters like we do. They don't die and live like we do. So that's where the whole confusion is, I believe, in this bloodline. Um, because they're incarnations of the same light. So, like Marduk and Enki are the same energy or the same light.
Do you
Where do
know
you
your
think?
blood type,
Where do you think this
Mike?
bloodline comes from?
Wow.
I believe it's AB positive, if I remember right. I don't
You
know
are?
off the top of my head for sure. Yeah.
Look at that Sumerian style king too, right there. Sorry, Shem, what was the question were you asking?
I was saying, where does he think the bloodline comes from?
Well, I mean, the Adamic bloodline itself, what Hitler was after, the white species. This was the creations of, this was the Genesis, the generations of Isis through Adam. She obviously did the Adamu first, and then came back through with the Adam, and birthed Adam from. They took the Adamu, which was like 12 different species, primate, reptilian, lizard, all these different species on this planet. They made a chimera between that as well as the Father's light. And they took the Father's
Chimera,
image.
aka also could be a homunculus, essentially, and the
Well,
cross between animal and human.
that's essentially what they were doing. And that they made something really good with the Adamu, but it was being corrupted and abused and tortured, and that's where Anki stepped in, and where they took the Adamu genetics and crossed it with themselves. And so that's where the white comes from, and where the it was too strong in Adam, and that's why you go down the bloodline to Enoch, and they took him up as an angel because he was special, because he was one of the very first human, Adamic species that had this, and then this is all also why you have Cain and Abel, because the genetic was still unstable, and you would get pure evil and pure good, and so until they could mix it down and get the bloodline stabilized good enough, they got to Noah, and then the flood occurred, and then they worked it down even from there to Abraham and David, and then it was good enough finally and stable enough to have the Christ come in the flesh. And that's when the whole Pistis Sophia takes place, where he takes the power of the fallen angels and rises back as like a upgraded, you know, Adam angel, or whatever you want to call the risen Christ.
When did this take place?
Well, that transition between the Old Testament and the New Testament in the Bible, or where you would have in Babylon the fall of Enlil as the worship and the rise of Marduk. That the transitions here and the reasons why we have these transitions is the coming of the Christ and the taking of the fallen angels' powers mentioned in the Pistis Sophia, chapter 20.
Right, and so many of these, lots of, you have a collection of documented of these star map discs, but then I suspect a lot of like the rounder carving ones that show depictions with planet and star constellations could potentially also be an astro calendar, like timestamp sort of thing, once all the info's entered into the AI database and analyzed.
Yeah, I think that the main missing component right now is power, and that's why we're chasing, fusion, and why Nikola Tesla's work was such a threat, because the control of the power is the important thing. And the wireless power of the pyramids and the wireless power that Nikola Tesla came upon would have given this power and this alchemy and magic to everybody. And that's not what they want. They want to control
Well,
that power.
they use it. You're bang on, but it's that they are using that technology to control that power. From what the rumors and conspiracies say, with this technology of the aura or etheric energy wave spectrum that
Yeah.
also has thought waves within it and conscious wave energy or wavelength contained within that same field. Thus, the military or the evil powers that be have classified it and then researched and put it into weaponization and applied it against us over the last 50 to 60 years. From the stories that are out there, and to the point that it's beamed down on us through satellites and through radio towers, apparently now.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that.
What I've been told, who knows? Take that with a grain of salt, but could be.
There's definitely a higher level of control. You can tell when you have sitting presidents telling the nation that they don't have control of the country. That's not a good sign, Man.
Right? Who was it that almost raided Area 51 or something? Or they didn't let him in?
Well, JFK requested declassification on the topic, and just a couple weeks later was no longer around.
I believe he was going to a meeting about that. He was on the way to talk to some guy about the process of that when he got assassinated in Dallas.
I believe it. Yeah.
Hoover, was it J. Edgar Hoover that whoever it was during or after Roswell, I think.
You guys need to see the JFK X film.
Yeah, I do.
It's so good. Like Jay Widener and Ryder Lee. It's so good.
Nice. Yeah, that's the main one Ryder Lee is known for, that I hear he did a great job on. Jeremy
Yeah, I
Reese,
feel
alien
I,
scientist. Oh, sorry, to interrupt. Has also done really, really good in-depth research on the true JFK government overthrow, and that we've been in fascist dictatorship ever since that coup d'état happened.
yeah, absolutely. And what I wanted, I heard you guys' stream on it, and I kept wanting to like shout to you guys, like, because the fact of the day that it was born, I mean, the day that it happened on, November 22nd, like November 21st is when for thousands of years they did like the Mayans, the Egyptians, all these different cultures, they would do ceremonies. Basically, it happened like really powerful things that you want to happen. Why? Because it's the highest point. It's the point when the Pleiades is the highest in the sky. And this used to occur when October 31st, right? When it struck at midnight, when it became November 1st, is when the Pleiades was the highest in the sky. That
That's
no
for
longer,
Halloween.
it no
Even,
longer
even
occurs at that time. It now occurs when November 21st. So if you're trying to pull something off ritualistically or anything for that matter, the most powerful time of year you can do that is when the Pleiades is high in the sky. So the fact that they did it on November 22nd, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to tell them that.
It makes sense.
the October 31st
Yeah.
day is interesting because that's the ending of World's Fairs, which goes all the way back to King Xerxes,
See, if you
according
want
to
to end
Encyclopedia Britannica.
that would be an
Really?
ideal time. But the thing is, it shifted, right? Because of something here shifted. And so that point no longer occurring at the November 1st, which, right, they celebrate it as like the Day of the Dead, probably because it's like the things that you're able to pull off in that time, like
Well, it's because we're
magically.
moving like through the horoscopes. It's like now we're in the age of Aquarius, so we're moving through these periods, so that they're
The
aligning.
grand
I forget the exact time it shifted, but it did.
Yeah.
and the grand 12,000 or 24,000-year-old cycle halfway through 12,000 right now. So truly going from one side now into another. Like, that is so wild.
This is quite the pipe.
I was gonna say, is that a pipe?
And like it looked clogged there, and as if there was charcoal, right? And like if that was buried in that like in the cave there, that same strata layer, you would expect that you could get that tested.
Right? Yeah, if
Yeah,
it's like
no,
like
we have
ceremonial tobacco.
not of this one specifically, but yeah, Scott Wolter had his tested and got a 10,000-year-old carbon date off the resin in the pipe, and found out that it was a majority tobacco.
That's amazing and epic. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, so to see the dates match up, obviously getting carbon dates on the adhesive is one thing. Seeing the organic material from the ground match up to the resin on the pipes, to um, multiple things, bones. That I mean, that's four things that correspond together pretty consistently, and that's. And when I say pretty consistently, like some stuff is 10,000, some stuff is as much as almost 20,000. So there's a pretty big gap, but it's all consistent within that gap. Haven't found anything that's 2,000 or 3,000 or anything like that. Have found
Yeah.
stuff that was modern. I mean, definitely found fakes out there, but
It's like usually just one comes back with those sort of numbers is pretty good with the amount of interference, and of course always attempts with fakes and stuff like that in there. But the fact that you're getting most of the ones that you've tested with a good range of just a couple thousand years, but all over 10,000, that's freaking wild.
yeah. Yeah, and that's only from the Abuelos pieces. The stuff from from Tula over here